Our first glass today, Eric, of sparkling wine. Let me see what you think.
I think it's quite good, like the other sparkling wines I've had here.
Quite some glasses, huh?
Just a few, yes. We went to Anna's ball in Rogaška Slatina. So we got to enjoy a few there. What's interesting about these, and this one in particular, is that in addition to grapes that we're used to in sparkling wines like Champagne, like Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, they use a Slovenian variety called Rebula. And so that adds a whole different set of elements that I'm not used to when I'm drinking sparkling wine. So that's why I'm quite curious about them.
And wine was actually responsible for you coming to Slovenia. It was
Yes.
your first connection.
Yes, I didn't know that they made wine in Slovenia. You made wine in Slovenia until I saw several entries of it on restaurant lists in Los Angeles, where I come from. So I tend to write a lot about restaurants, and sommeliers started pairing Slovenian wines with some of the food. I'd noticed them on the wine list and had no idea what to choose, so I decided I had better come here myself to try some. And that's what I've been doing for the past week or so.
And this is actually the story. There are a lot of connoisseurs, of wine connoisseurs in the States as well. Usually we say, United States, they invented all you can eat.
Sorry.
It's really now.
Yes, I would just like to point out, it's very big now, as you said, and I would just like to point out that the world's most famous wine critic probably is American, and his name is Robert Parker, and he's actually, quite a driver of wine markets, and and his staff has been getting into Slovenian wines too. But American wine culture itself has developed quite a lot lately. I think what might surprise some people is that we drink the most wine in the world now, by volume, not per person. I personally am responsible for quite a lot of that, so okay. But in terms of drinking our own wine, yes, quite interested, but people are venturing further and further afield to places like New Zealand or South Africa, as well as to traditional wine countries like France and Spain and Slovenia, where you've been making wine for a long time, but we just haven't been aware of it in our part of the world.
So where have you tried Slovenian wine for the very first time? You remember your first sip?
Not exactly, which is a good thing with wine sometimes, but what I think is a place I remember distinctly having it, so I suspect it was the first place I did, is a restaurant in Los Angeles called Papil, and it means taste buds in French, and it's a very simple restaurant, bistro, set menu that changes every week, and a wine list of countries we would find exotic and maybe a little strange in the United States, like Slovenia, like Hungary, Romania even, and places that we're not so used to getting wines from. So we tried a red wine there. I can't tell you what it is anymore because it's been a couple of years. But since then, I remember going like this, like, I'd better go try this.
So when an American goes to Europe, it means Paris, it means Italy, and now this tiny little country becoming a big player on the wine list, on the wine map. How would you describe Slovenia to your friends? Where is it, actually? Where is it?
These are all very good questions, because when I said I was going to Slovenia, everyone said where and why. Beyond the food and wine, which has been an amazing discovery for me, what's interesting about Slovenia, some of the things that are interesting about Slovenia are its proximity to a lot of other places. I think I've been told several times this week, Venice is a 2-hour drive that way. Let's say Vienna, maybe 4 hours. So it's quite easy to get here. And in terms of connections, I myself took a flight from Amsterdam because I just happened to be there. It was less than 2 hours. It was cheap, it was easy, it was quick, and I got here in time to have a full day here. So it's very easy, and there are connections all over Europe, which I love. But in trying to explain Slovenia to people, I think a lot of people might have mixed it up with Croatia a little bit, maybe Slovakia a little bit, things that it sounds a little like. And so what I had to explain after doing some research myself is that Slovenia, though it has a coastline, the story, a lot of the story tends to be away from the coast. So those beautiful mountains, the alpine landscapes, all of which lend themselves to an incredible food scene as well. You think beautiful scenery makes for happy cows, makes for happy cheese, as we say in California, where I come from. So it's just one of the little sort of secrets I found.
It's very good to hear. You're in a country that is not even on a weather map.
Is it
No,
true?
we're
That's
not.
true. I
No,
did
we're
not
not.
see
It's really terrible. But actually, on the wine map, we are very much there, and nobody is confusing us with Croatia or Slovakia, because wine is one of the things that makes us different in a way.
I would say yes. In terms of the wine industry worldwide, I think being seen as different was a bad thing for a certain number of years there, like in the 1990s when all the wines from France, from California, from Australia all started to taste the same a little bit, shall we say. And so now, to be distinctive, to be unique is very important when it comes to wine. With wine, as with travel, a sense of place is essential to having something special. And to creating a truly unique product. And so in terms of Slovenia, what I see is, as we were discussing earlier, because the wine industry here is smaller, because you have a lot of domestic consumption of it, which is great, it's been free to remain its own unique character. And that, as I see it, is essential to any successful wine industry, and one that just isn't afraid to be itself. So it's sort of very Slovenian in spirit, friendly, open, and not shy, shall we say.
It's a little boutique. Everything is limited edition. We should really cherish what we have.
This is also what makes it special in terms of a visit, I think, because although, as I said, I've seen Slovenian wines on our wine list and have gotten to try a few, obviously there's so many more out there.
I won't ask you about the cities and places you visited. I'm interested in wine.
Okay.
What have you tried? What did you like?
Well, the first wine we tried actually was out in Goriška Brda, a very famous wine region here, very close to the border with Italy, and it was Movia, which is one of the best known names. So we had a Ribula first off, and that's obviously the white grape that region is known for. I knew it as Ribolla Gialla when I've had it in Italian wines that they grow across the border, basically. And from there we've had things like Marjan Simčić and Edi Simčić, both very well-known, highly respected producers. And then we've tried a couple from different parts of the country as well. What surprised me is that varieties that I know fairly well, like Merlot and Cabernet, are made probably the same way, but taste quite different here. Depends on the growing, depends on the terrain, depends on the winemaking process. They're released later than we tend to see them in the United States. So all of that has been a little bit of a revelation to me. Again, when I try wine, I'm not necessarily looking for things that are all to my taste. I'm just curious about learning what they're like, personally. So one of the things that has been interesting with the reds is that they are quite different from, let's say, Californian reds and French reds that I've had, and they have their own unique character, and one that tends to lend itself quite well to a lot of the food that we've tried here as well.
So what will be there in your suitcase when you go home?
Well,
an extra special the customer noticed?
I wish I could take some wine with me. Yes, I hope this doesn't air for a little while. But I will say this, so when I was in Rogaška Slatina, I got 2 very nice wine glasses, so those will be with me, and I'm looking forward to drinking out of them when I go back home. I've really loved the wines that I got to try from Edi Simčić, actually. Some really very unique, very very special wines, ones that both exemplify the region of Goriška Brda, and yet are unmistakable for some of the other producers that I've been able to try. And we also tried some Marjan Simčić that I really enjoyed too. So I'm going to look for Simčić on labels and go with that. I wouldn't mind taking a bottle of this Medot home with me though, because it really is delicious. It's got some of those really lovely, creamy, toasty notes that I like in champagne, but still quite light-bodied.
They're quite fashionable now, sparkling wines. In Europe, in Slovenia as well, in the States, you drink lots of sparkling.
Do you know, there was a figure from a couple years ago where about 75% of the sparkling wine drunk in the US was drunk between Thanksgiving Day, which is at the end of November, and New Year's Day in the US, and that has shifted quite a lot as people decide it's okay to have a glass of sparkling wine before dinner, or to keep a bottle in the fridge and have a glass every couple days or something like that, because it keeps for a while. You can open it up and those bubbles don't disappear for a little while. So I think we're seeing a big shift as things that aren't champagne come onto the market. There are more affordable price points. This is one of them also. I believe it goes for about 25 euros a bottle, what we're sampling now, which is just the non-vintage brut. That people are more willing to open up a bottle and try it, which is great.
Eric, I hope there will be a nice welcome home party in West Hollywood. Huh?
Well, it'll be my birthday when I get back, so there had better be.
With some Slovenian wine and here's to you.
Thank you. So nice to meet you and talk to you.
And you do it like the Slovenes do. You always look into the eyes,
course.
say na zdravje, eye contact, because some nations are always focusing on glass. Whatever it may be. Say na zdravje.
Na zdravje.
You can make chin-chin with a glass as well. Good to have you here.